Saints Row developer Volition has shut down, leaving many uncertain about their future. While Volition has a long-standing history within the gaming community spanning over 30 years, their most controversial project came in 2022 when they released a reboot of Saints Row. Both critics and fans ripped this game apart. Most agree that the reboot was just an empty shell of its former self. Volition was using the excellent reputation of the previous games to create their spin-off. The reboot was nothing like the original and thus cannot be considered within the same space. Despite the disappointment, many did hold out hope that the studio could redeem themselves. While some fans were disappointed, many still believed in the studio. No one wants to see people lose their jobs. Thus, it isn't very pleasant to hear that the studio will close down immediately. Volition banked heavily on Saints Row to succeed. They invested heavily in the project, but sadly, it fell flat. The game cost over $100 million and made less than half of that back. If you include advertising and marketing, they lost hundreds of millions. Thus, the news of the studio shutting down is no surprise to anyone. Despite the lack of shock, it is still a disappointment. Many former employees have spoken out on Twitter or X about the sudden news that they are jobless. Employees hope they could be absorbed into other studios under the publisher, but that likely will not happen. The response from the fans, however, has been mixed. In their official statement, Volition said, "The Volition team has proudly created world-class entertainment for fans around the globe for 30 years. We've been driven by a passion for our community and always worked to deliver joy, surprise, and delight. This past June, Embracer Group announced a restructuring program to strengthen Embracer and maintain its position as a leader in the video game industry. As part of that program, they evaluated strategic and operational goals and made the difficult decision to close Volition effective immediately. To help our team, we are working to provide job assistance and help smooth the transition for our Volition family members. We thank our customers and fans around the world for all the love and support over the years. You will always be in our hearts." Embracer Group is struggling right now. A few years back, they decided to start heavily investing in the gaming space. They have built an extensive library of studios. However, this strategy has not worked out well. Embracer is a prominent force within the gaming space. However, their market share was not always this big. They only started investing in 2011, and since then, they have accumulated over 18 gaming studios. They have spent billions getting studios. However, they are forced to restructure due to financial issues. The company had a bad financial situation after a disastrous collapse with Saudi Arabia worth $2 billion. Embracer is not a game studio by heart. They are simply investors looking to make money. The gaming space is booming, and these investors saw an opportunity to cash in. Unfortunately, due to this, the publisher has been struggling. While they still make profits, it is far from what they hoped. The Embracer CEO called the Saints Row reboot disappointing. The executive did not have high expectations from this studio moving forward. Likely, the shutdown of this studio was directly related to the Saints Row disappointment. Internally, the publisher faced the difficult task of cutting back on costs. It would make sense that they will start with the studio that cost them $100 million. We could see even more studios deciding to shut down their doors. While Volition worked hard to keep some of its promises, it was ultimately insufficient. They promised fixes to the game and also additional content. While they delivered on these promises, it came too late. These bug fixes and DLC also did little to compensate for the disappointing gameplay and story. The game feels like a PlayStation 3 reskin. In addition, the gameplay missions are incredibly frustrating. While some quickly dismiss the critics, it is hard to do in this case. The hate for this game extends further than online hate from trolls. This studio made mistakes and is paying the ultimate price. There is no joy in saying this because no one deserves to lose their job, but it is a sad reality. Publishers are only looking to increase their profits. If you fail to deliver, you will be cut. In the case of Volition, this was their biggest project, and it failed to deliver. This will likely be the end of Saints Row for quite some time. Fans find rehashing old games tiresome. They will be even less receptive if you do it poorly and go against the game's original spirit. The relationship between fans and Volition has been strained for some time. It all started a few years ago when the community manager for Saints Row attacked fans, calling them terrorists. Since then, many have felt alienated from the community. It is worth noting that some fans were extremely harsh but still fair. The game was a disaster, and thus, the outrage was understandable. It is hard to explain how horrible this game was to those who have never played it. While some fans can sympathize with people losing their jobs, others have stopped caring long ago. There is a limit to how far you can push people before they push back. The gaming community has been on edge for some time now. Broken launches, microtransactions, and empty reboots have successfully alienated many. Now is not the time to go after your fan base. Studios want to prove how stunning and brave they are and will run into a brick wall. With that said, many talented developers still lost their jobs. Hopefully, they will all be able to land on their feet. You can share your frustrations with a failed game and hope that the studio developers find other work. Not everyone who worked on the game was a crazy person. Many were doing their jobs and trying to create a great experience. Sadly, that did not work out. Because of internal decisions, many are out of work. Only time will tell how much more this publisher is going to bleed. All the studios under Embracer are likely highly nervous, as any of them could be next. They invested billions and will be looking to return that money. Embracer did not join the gaming space to lose any money. They service their investors, and moving forward, they will be even stricter on their studios. The only question that remains is if they learned their lesson. Sadly, these people never do, and we will likely see more broken reboots of classic IPs in the future. I already heard the rumors about what the next Lara Croft might look like.